in London, in lockdown, from my sofa, in the middle of winter. Welcome to a Love Thy Tender with a bit of a difference. Today, we're going to be going live out to interview two of my damn favourite people in one of my favourite spots in the world. Coming live from Sydney, Australia, we're going to be interviewing two figures at the vanguard of the Australian bar industry who have done more for advancing the rum market than anyone I know. Please allow me to introduce Chau Tran and Tom Bulmer.
Yeah, buddy.
How are you both?
Hey, good. Like, I don't know what you said about winter. You're okay. Hey,
Really?
I'll have to. You've forgotten, Tom. We have seasons here.
we have seasons: warm, really warm,
and warmer.
And time to go to the beach.
Warm, warmer, and on fire.
Yeah.
So, guys, this is an opportunity. The reason I was so delighted you agreed to do this, because it's an opportunity to get to know you. And what I want to do is talk about your careers, your accomplishments, and paint a bit of a picture for people who aren't familiar with the Australian scene. For what I think is undeniably one of the most dynamic cocktail scenes in the world right now, with an explosion of bars and some incredible creativity. Being where Australia is, that sort of melting pot of influences from Asia with European influences and with a unique Australian twist. But also, this is a market that is increasingly looking like it's about to explode on the rum scene as well. So thanks a lot for joining me. So, Tom, we obviously go a long way back, and I first met you when you were over here doing Walkabout. And working in the rum bars there. Do you want to give a bit of a rundown on your history, Tom?
Mate, look, it's been a long journey. I thought we weren't talking about the days that we had back in London. I thought we were being careful.
We said we talk about what you remembered, so it would be short.
Oh, right. So there was shots. No, look, I actually really do remember coming to London. It was definitely an interesting time for me. Like, for me, I've come out of the Sydney market. I've been working here for like 9 or 10 years. Yes. And it was kind of like, I remember showing up to Mahiki and they've been like, okay, we have to sit a test. I'm like, sick. I know everything about classic cocktails. I'm going to sit a test. I'm going to do really well on the test. And then, I sit down with Jules and he's like, but do you own a Hawaiian shirt? And I was like, who owns a Hawaiian shirt? And he's like, but Hawaiian shirts make people happy. And pretty much from that point on, I was just like, shit, yeah, they kind of do, don't they? And so basically, I kind of found my groove. I became a little bit less serious, and then I became a lot less serious. And yeah, like that was the end of the story. I mean, do you remember like that trip we had to do to Jamaica?
From what I remember, just to paint the picture. So how long ago was that? It was 2007 or so, wasn't it? 2008?
Yeah. About 2007, 2008, I think, yeah.
So the company I was working for at the time, IP Bartenders, we'd done a competition with Appleton that was set up by bartenders for bartenders that ultimately culminated in taking the top 3 bartenders in the UK out to Jamaica to undergo what was one of the toughest bartending tests that we put together. What do you remember of that event that we made you do, Tom?
I remember that Rich Hunt hit me up like a week earlier, and I was like, I was getting ready to leave London. Like it was almost time. My 2-year visa was up, and he's like, so you're showing up to this competition and you're competing, and I'm like, but like I'm out. Like, and he's like, no, you're my wild card. And so I had a week to prepare for this thing. And this is a pretty serious competition. It was pretty intense. Like, for a group that were calling themselves Playboy bartenders, this is like 150 question test. There was speed rounds. There was knowledge tests and cocktails. It was intense. And so I just remember kind of like taking, a week, which means 2 days, to get it done. And yeah, next thing I knew, I was not planning to go home. I was planning to go to Jamaica.
And I remember, so the event was, we got 300 of the Jamaican VIPs. And I can't remember who turned up to your event, but I know in previous ones we had Sean Paul and Usain Bolt and the Jamaican bobsled team and literally a sort of a who's who of Jamaican celebrity. And each of the three bartenders had to run their own bar under the most intense pressure imaginable. Now, what was it like serving to a bunch of Caribbeans? Because like the idea was you had to win their token. So you had to win their hearts and win their token. What do you remember of that hyper intense evening?
It was so intense, man. Like these Jamaicans are just like there to party. They are party people. And just being like one of three bars set up was just kind of like, what kind of world have I stepped into? Like this is like tiki bars on steroids here. Like everyone is just down to party. I think the one memory I have of that night is that at some point I was dancing on the dance floor because I needed those tokens, and basically this girl starts like really grinding me. Like it got seriously intense, and then like this guy out of nowhere is like, yeah, grind the white boy, and like I'm like, this is too much. Like I don't know where this is going. Later on, the guy comes up and shakes my hand, and it's like, my wife knows how to dance, right? Like, so to put the intensity in perspective, it was,
well, Tom,
it was definitely something different.
Tom, I've known you long enough to know that the secret of your success has been that there's nothing you won't do for customer satisfaction and their happiness.
That's true.
Like I think that was a pretty good example. Well, while we're talking about like customer happiness and just bringing good into the world, like there's no one I wanted more on this interview than Chau, because if someone asked me to describe you, like it would be that no one I've met in all my travels around the world does more to put good out into the world and get people really excited about and pull together community. So now you've run Borough Bar. What's been your sort of journey up to that point, Chau? What's been your bar journey?
I think I started out bartending in a really shitty, sticky carpet pub during university. And it was like just nightclub parties, like, you know, Wednesday, Thursdays, Fridays and Saturdays. So it was just like really about speed. And if you can get a tip within like a 20-second window of like making a drink, getting the order, I feel like it was kind of like my personal goal. Like I really want to make people like have an amazing interaction, but give myself the 20 seconds. So I nailed it. So I feel like that definitely for me was like my first kind of cut into like, how do you make sure every single touch point was important? And it was like, you know, a great time. Like people come into a bar because they're in a really good mood or in a really shit mood. So like, you know, you have the power to change their entire week or their entire day. And I feel like that's such an amazing and incredible thing. And, you know, it's led to many collaborations with Tom, for good or evil, but you know, it's always centered around the person leaving with the biggest smile on their face, you know, like I think that's like just imperative to everything that we do in our careers, and you know, definitely in like the establishments that, you know, we've run and we've owned and we've opened, for sure.
You know,
sorry, but paint a picture to me to someone who hasn't been at Borough Bar then, Chau, because for me and my short trips to Australia, it's a bar that left quite a lasting impression on me.
I think for me, like Borough Bar is absolutely the happiest place in the world. You may not remember what it looks like because you've had too many daiquiris, but you definitely remember the feeling, right? And for me, that's like the most important thing. That's like what gets people kind of coming back. You know, we have a back bar of like, you know, 1,000 bottles of like really rare and wonderful things. Most of them have like, you know, kissed a barrel and spent some time in them. So we definitely have like aged spirits as like a pride and place in the back bar. But it's the customer service as well. It's, you know, it's you coming in and feeling completely comfortable, whether you really feel like drinking a really naff drink or drinking a really serious drink. Like, you know, that whole experience should be completely amazing. You know, you shouldn't be shunned by a bartender because, you know, you really like drinking, I don't know, Cosmos. You know, we make it our mission that any drink order is not a silly order. It's our job to like make sure that you have the best Cosmo that you've ever had. And you know, you leave being best friends with the bartender, like, and you come back the next day. That's kind of like our ethos in everything we do.
And you do a lot of stuff, as I remember vividly, like Borough Bar is one of those industry hangouts as well. You do a lot of stuff for community for the rest of the wider bar industry.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like my bartending career, like I didn't work at like the fanciest places that, you know, were hatted and, you know, well lauded. Like I worked in dive places that were really shitty and really cheap booze, you know. So sometimes, you know, you fall into a trap of going through hospitality and you either get kind of pigeonholed, you know, are you a serious cocktail bartender or are you like, you know, serious in like management ops? For me, like the space at Borough Bar was like, if you're in hospitality, you're family, you know, like no matter where you work, wherever you work in that kind of like hierarchy, you have a home and you'll be treated completely the same. So for us, like, you know, offering like hospitality meals, offering them for free during the pandemic, like, you know, it was a no-brainer. Like, you know, it costs you nothing to be kind and to think about people and, you know, that they're scared, they're worried, and they, you know, don't have someone to talk to. Like, I think it's really important to like make sure everyone feels included, because life is fucking hard. And then, you know, pandemic makes it like 12 times harder.
Yeah, well, there's been no corner of the globe unaffected by the pandemic, and while we've all shared some pain, everyone shared it like in completely different ways. What's it been like for the bar industry? What have you seen its impact on the bar industry in Australia generally?
I think, you know, like you got to remember that Australia got off fairly lucky compared to a lot of other places. So we were shut down for probably about 3 months before we could reopen. Honestly, I think the scariest part is the comfort of being in isolation. It's thinking that might be the new normal, or just being, for a lot of hospitality professionals, being alone, and when you're so used to being around everyone and so used to being the life of the party, having that alone time with your own thoughts is a lot of people really struggled with that. And you know, is that the new normal? I remember it was really hard reminding yourself to get out every day, do something every day, to make sure that, you know, you stay in that positive mind frame.
Having structure to your day, like, you know, we all get rosters, right, every week.
Yeah.
So I know when I have to be somewhere, I know I probably need like, you know, 2 hours beforehand to like make sure I eat something or not. You know, like all of a sudden everything didn't matter. There was just nothing that you could really structure your day around. You know, you had people that felt like they had lost purpose. You had people that stopped seeing their friends, stopped seeing.
And we are such social creatures.
Yeah, and we're extremely tactile, I think, you know. Like, I found it really hard to not hug people when we were allowed to reopen. Like, for the first time in my life, I actually had to stop. Like, I come ambling at you if I hear that front door open, and then I found myself stopping.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it was such a bizarre feeling.
I was going to say my favourite thing about Borough Bar is well, I want to say little known fact, very well known fact, that Chau loves hugs. And like, if there's one thing that would have started our friendship, it was the fact that she loves hugs. Like,
I can love them.
Yeah, we have a hashtag Hug Life. I think it's on your merch as well.
Merch. Yeah, for sure.
So one of the silver linings in the cloud of this sort of awful pandemic has been how it's sort of compelled certain people to pivot and innovate during pandemic, and obviously some people have done it very successfully or were in a position to do and not. And here in the UK, we've seen an explosion in cocktails at home and interactive cocktail classes with customers and things like that. What have you seen sort of best bits of innovation where the industry's like been forced to innovate?
I think our ability to engage in social media is probably one of the key things there. Like, I don't think bartenders have ever been great with technology. And so having to, like, thinking about the social market, setting up virtual events, doing these sorts of things, that's something that I guess never really occurred to a lot of us. And it's so amazing. Like, you know, having these chats, you know, how often before this would you and I have caught up, you know? It would be only if you came to Sydney or something. We never think to like do something like this.
Yeah, I think also, like, you know, it showed me the real hustlers in the industry, like the ones that kind of said like, no, I'm not going to take this lying down, I'm going to do something. The countless like online tastings that you've done with Rum Club, Borobar, we immediately went into, well, making a pre-bottled cocktail and delivering to someone's door is a very passive experience, and a lot of people are doing that. Where we bring the magic is, you get our shit chat and our smiling faces. So we did cocktail classes where we log in every Saturday, every Friday, and we do like Friday drinks or Saturday drinks together, but we make it together and we talk you through the process. Why we're using a certain citrus instead of another one, why we're using one particular alcohol in a different category versus another category. So it kind of became like a real educational and just 2 hours for people and a lot of our regulars to unwind and feel like they're still in the bar, because we did it from the bar. We did it live and streamed it from the bar. So, seeing that innovation come through from everyone has been great. People are digitizing. I know Sydney, we've created a chat where we share customers. So if you're completely full and someone's have a few seats open or they're completely empty, we send and we flood that venue with people, because keeping people out and keeping people happy means that return to drinking and dining and staying out in the city where there isn't really a neighborhood is key to reviving the CBD for us.
I should actually explain this for a second. So Chau started this, was it you started? Yeah. This spare seat club. And what it is because we're only allowed 50% occupancy in your venue with 2-minute distance between each table, it means you can barely have any people in your venue. So what that meant was everyone had all these lines and, no one could fit anyone in. So Chau started a club between all the bar managers out there in Sydney that basically told us, hey guys, who doesn't have customers? Because we've got a line. And realistically, we just sent those customers, hey, this bar can still fit 4 people. This bar can still fit 2 people.
Yeah.
And so that even in that sort of low capacity range, we're actually sending people to our mates, and making sure that everyone could get a drink in their hand and also help those venues that were struggling during that time.
And, the key is it was not just independent bars, it was big bars, big hotel groups as well were included in that. Because if they go down, that is a huge hit to, any scene in any city. So for us, it was really about, well, all hospo is hospo at this point, and we've got to get through the other end together. That's the most important thing. It didn't matter if you're a 10-seater or 5,000 seats. You're part of the club.
Well, right now, Opera Bar sounds like it's going off, and it's only 11 a.m. where you are. I think that's testament to the resilience of the Australian drinkers to just go out and drink whatever.
Well, I mean, we're sitting in front of this. I hope. Do you have a glass in front of you?
I do indeed. I'll drink to you guys.
Cheers. It's 11 o'clock there, but
it's
breakfast. It's breakfast rum for us.
Well, while we're talking about rum, so Tom, when you came back to Australia all that time ago, it was to a very different market than it was today, and I don't think I'm giving you any undue flattery when I say that you did more than anyone else in terms of bringing a passion for rum and trying to unite people. Do you want to talk about some of the things that you've done over the course of the last decade or so to try and sort of grow rum in Australia?
Yeah, look, when I got back, it really was a different world. Sydney has always made great cocktails. There've always been so many passionate people, but we're always so far away as well. So keeping an eye on trends and things like that and what's going on in London wasn't that easy 10 years ago or 15, 20 years ago. So what I really wanted to do was just bring a bit of that love back here. I remember showing up with Hawaiian shirts and just being like, everyone's like, Tom, what are you doing? Why are you wearing this Hawaiian shirt? And I was like, oh, but like Papa Jules had told me, I'm supposed to make people happy. So Hawaiian shirts do that. And it was just a lot of lack of understanding. We didn't really have much going on with Rum Club or anything like that. So I just started by wanting to put rum in people's mouths. I remember my first session for Rum Club, and I was like, look, guys, let's just get together and see what happens. There was 5 people in the room. by the second session, there was 20 people in the room. And then so slowly but surely, it happened. And I remember, I think the biggest one was 140 people at one point. That's when we were like, cool, we're going to need a bigger boat.
So, Chau, what are your memories of the like the first sugarcane Sundays? Because that for me, even from here, like I heard the impact of what sugarcane Sundays was. Do you want to like paint a picture of those events?
I don't know. There's something about rum that just makes everyone instantly happy. You know, like I've never gone to like a festival or like a drinks like I don't know, conference where you get greeted with such happiness. There's like flowers, everything smells like coconut, there's like sweet scents in the air.
There was a lot of hugs as well, I might point out.
And everyone's just so joyous. Like there's just something about rum that's delicious, and immediately what you see and what you kind of feel is amazing. And the Sugarcane Sunday was like a huge community of people that support each other and love each other's like, you know, rum. I think like on both sides of, you know, whether you were exhibitor or like a consumer, like you were having a great time. You know, there was like pina coladas free flowing, and it just educated a lot of people about like different types of rum, because in Australia I think rum has had a bad rap for a very, very long time. And now we're kind of seeing products from like, you know, different regions and like different aging, different ages, different vintages. Yeah. Like that's
well,
really
I think that's something worth dwelling on, because the Australia, of course, for people unfamiliar with sort of the global sugar market, has always been one of the top 5 producers of sugar in the world. Like all of the resources are there for a good rum market, and in volume terms, an awful lot of rum was always consumed in Australia. But I think you'll agree that generally it wasn't of the highest standard, and I think and rum had a pretty bad rap. Like so what was where do you see the sort of shoots growing in the rum market, and how much work is there still to do?
It really came down to the fact that, you know, rum was perceived as fight juice for such a long time, and really the hardest part is convincing people, because basically in London, when you think of rum, you think of the Caribbean, because that's where your rum's coming from. But for Australia, it was coming from some of the, how do you put this, most regional areas. And so convincing people that rum is fun, it's social, doing things like Sugarcane Sunday. Me and Chau were happy enough to launch our own little tiki pop-up, you know, reminding people that it's fun. It's a social activity, and things like Sugarcane Sunday, Lost Luau Bar, hugs. You know, this is really what we need to do to grow it. I think it comes down to the consumer market being more aware. We've done enough now to educate the hospitality market, but we need to bring consumers on the journey, and that is, you know, that's fine spirits, that's privileged releases that we see constantly coming in from the Caribbean and from yourselves at Plantation. It's having access to high quality juice, you know, like that's really the important thing.
Well, I think it seems to me that's just starting to come out from Australia. In my last visit to Cognac, sort of between lockdowns, when I ran around and tried to taste every single barrel in a warehouse that I hadn't tasted before, unarguably the most exciting spirit I tasted, which we're just about to release as a Plantation vintage coming out in about 3 months' time, was the Plantation Australia from Binley. A 10 to 12-year-old rum with a huge amount of body that was benefiting from its travels, and just sang to me in the mouth. That when just tasting that rum went a long way to reinforcing how exciting I think the Australian rum market is. Like, I imagine you've done quite a lot of work with Steve and the guys at Binley.
Yeah, well, just I think last Tuesday, we actually hosted a virtual rum club with all, like, 5 Australian distillers, and Steve was one of them. And yeah, man, it's amazing to see the pop up, but it takes such a long time as well. So remember, in Australia, it takes 2 years to call anything a rum, so it's always going to be a little bit harder and a little bit more difficult. So you're only really just seeing now the fruits of maybe 5 years ago's labour coming up, and there's a competitive market now of desiring to produce high quality spirits and high quality rums.
How long are you going to stay here?
Chau, is there a sort of an independent high quality rum producer that we might not know of that you can give us an inside track on?
Yep. Sorry, what was that?
Sorry, Chau, is there like in this sort of new breed of the sort of rum producers that are really starting to sort of embrace like the premiumization of the category, is there like any interesting distilleries that I might not heard of, or people watching this might not have heard of, that you want to give an inside track to? Is there anything you've tasted that you really think's exciting coming?
Ooh, Black Tot is pretty tasty.
Shout out to Mitch.
I don't know. I think what I'm seeing in Oz is definitely like the agricole category, definitely growing. That funk, that you can't really get from anything else. Like I can't think of any other spirit across categories that brings that funk into a drink than agricole. And consumers are starting to actually enjoy it, which is amazing because I knew for a very long time that bartenders loved it.
Agricole daiquiris, man. Like, and it's weird because I know it is such a French produce, but like it's phenomenal. And because that we do have mill to kill, and because all the sugar cane's here, like it is so readily available to produce white and unaged. We can't obviously call it rum here, but like it's definitely a crowd favorite.
Yeah, and of course, like just what you just put your finger on is the fact that you've got the fresh ingredient there, and I love hearing anyone sing the praises of agricole, because I love particularly white agricole. I love to taste the soil and the rainfall and the vegetation and the grass and all that little bit of funk that you can only really get when you're like in the standing in close proximity to the raw ingredient. One of the rum types that I've known of for ages, because it's always really widely available in Australia, is from one of our favourite new producers, a new partnership that we're doing with Rumco. I'm sorry about that little internet connection problem. With Rumco of Fiji. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. So yeah, Rumco of Fiji, like they've become a really important partner for us, and we've completely fallen head over heels in love with what they're producing from there. Like, what's been your experience in dealing with Fijian rums? Considering it's like, I know it's not close, but it's kind of part of your extended doorstep.
Look, I think the whole region's really improving. Like having so many people really trying to excel and having that market competition has meant that everyone's lifted up their game. And Rumco Fiji, when they started to launch their new range, have just done a really good job. I always think that rum needs to be from an island, just Australia's the biggest one. But it really is great to see like the Rumco Fiji, some of the things coming out of Indonesia as well, and the local surrounding islands. We always forget that these are the people that have been doing rum for the longest. Sugarcane actually started its journey up in the PNG region of our coast. So these people have had rum in some form or another for probably longer than any of us.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to like every time I go out to the market with a bottle like this to introduce people to Fiji, but also show them just how it tastes so different from a lot of other rums, like that cocoa-y, chocolatey, nutty, just richness that you get from those rums. One of the get yourself a shot of Fijian rum. That's a good place to start. While I ask, there are. So my two visits over to Australia when we were doing some plantation work, I was obviously really fascinated with some of the great local ingredients that you guys have got to accent and augment and lengthen all your cocktails. What are some like Australian specific fruit or liquors or like interesting touches that you see used in cocktail bars that we should be envious of?
No, myrtle.
Pineapples? No, I think we see a lot of Australian native ingredients, and in fact, you see a lot of Australian native ingredients in spice drums as well that are coming out to the market. It's been interesting, but
yeah. And also, like, we have a huge like Southeast Asian influence, right? So, like, with your pina colada, like, there's things like soursop and like custard apple that is a banging like pina colada riff.
Yeah.
We use a lot of like kind of like citrusy, like local like spices that really kind of lends really well to like drinks as well.
Yeah. I think like using, I guess we're just like such a resource-rich nation, so having that availability of produce is something that you just can't compare to. Like, I still remember in London receiving those fruit deliveries and just being like, the mint's sad again. In Australia, everything's here, so the produce is just reflected in that, and because of that, the cocktails are just vibrant. Like, they just have that vibrance, and like, you're just never short of new flavors and interesting spices to work with.
You guys are making me really thirsty and really like jealous. I'm telling you that much. What's your like ideal cocktail, Chau, for like what's the sort of the best drink on your borough menu that you'll go back to when it's not just a sessionable drink like a daiquiri?
Oh, I love like, so I think my favorite kind of drink where it's like super boozy and always refreshing is like a French 75 served in a Collins glass over rocks of ice. So I've started to do that with like an like old Cuban, and it's like chef kiss. But like old Cuban, tall Collins glass,
Nice.
like she punchy but she tasty.
And Tom, it might be a good opportunity for you to flex your drinks making muscles before midday arrives, and it's like and this party really kicks off at Opera Bar. So the drink that I always associate with you is the Dakar Ale that I knew became a bit of a cult classic in Australia. Do you want to describe the Dakar Ale, how it came about, and make us one?
Well, I guess for me it started with just going to hospo bars and the bars being too busy to get me a daiquiri. And basically what I'll do is I'll just go up and they'll see me on like Mitch Wilson down back in Henrietta days when he was running that bar. He'd be 5 deep, and like that's not going to change anytime soon. So I'd wave to him and it'd be like 10 minutes sort of thing for that daiquiri to arrive. But in the meantime, I'll just grab a cold pale ale and just like sit back and wait. And then, when that daiquiri arrived, it was like, well, the beer's almost done. And I'll just end up pouring the rest of the daiquiri into the beer. Sorry, the rest of the beer into the daiquiri. And and then that drink was born. It's just like tasty and like refreshing at the same time. Kind of rum's answer to the Lagerita. Mind you, I heard a rumor that something similar existed up in London as well.
Well, I mean, it'd be hard pressed for anyone to start claiming beer and daiquiris as something that they created. I think that's like I'm sure that appeared in biblical texts. I'm pretty sure that somewhere in the Bible there were daiquiris and beers. I'm shaky on the detail.
Bartender's Bible.
Yeah, the Bartender's Bible, of course. So, Chau, you're going to make us a drink as well. Do you want to make us? Do you want to make us like a drink that you want to show off?
Yeah, so I'm gonna make like a Mai Tai kind of riff.
Okay.
Yeah, cool.
So I've got a native smoked Bunya lemon myrtle blossom orgeat. So I'm gonna use that in like a little Mai Tai riff.
And I'm gonna make you a Dakar Ale. I mean, it's the right time of day here.
Yeah, I'm envious. If you guys, why don't you show us the sites? Because obviously we can see the goddamn harbour bridge there. Show us the sites and take us to the bar.
It's not the perfect day yet, so you need to understand. Like, it's a bad day. There's a cloud there somewhere.
And then I think we've got the Opera House. Is that like a decent kind of view? And then we've got the bar's open right now, so it's got like 11 a.m. kind of trade. So this is Opera Bar. awesome place run by Steve Davis, who's allowed us to come in and do a bit of
I gotta say, like being here in this bar as well. Like I know that these guys have been in one of like the top 100 venues in the world for cocktails. It's great that we can be here and show you, I guess, a bit of what Australia's about. And like this is honestly the light. Like,
can't wait for you guys to come visit us.
Yeah, again, I'm it's high on my list of things to do. So, what's like before we just start to make some drinks and just turn this into a session? We're going to turn the recording off, and you and I, we can all just sit and chat for a while. Like, what's the thing you're most excited to come out of pandemic and when the market starts opening? Like, what have you got projects on the go and like that you're really excited to start showing off?
I guess like for me, Burra Bar is actually, we've got 7 days left in our current space. So we actually, at the start of the pandemic, our lease ran out. Our landlord's been great, so I don't want to say anything bad about them. But we knew that we had a timeline to kind of work to. So we spent the last 12 months looking for a space, finally found one, spent 4 months like negotiating like the rent terms, and we're actually moving. So 7 days left of trade for Burra Bar, and then we're going to open up and move the bar into like a bigger and better kind of like space. Now, Burra Bar is going to be pretty much very, very similar. It will be, small, hard to find, very cozy. But what we're doing is actually opening a Vietnamese restaurant upstairs. And that's really like, what we've seen over the last 18 months, specifically pandemic. People are, snacking, eating, and staying out longer. If you've got like a decent food menu, like the spend per head goes up. And we've always kind of wanted to kind of up our food game. So for me, I'm like super excited to kind of literally launch 2 venues in like the span of a week and not sleep for a few months. But I'm super excited about that. And as always, we've got projects with Tom going all the time.
We'll be looking at really about relaunching everything. So relaunching in-person rum clubs around Australia, relaunching Sugarcane Sunday around Australia, and basically doing everything we can to make hugs great again. Like, as soon as we can keep doing things, we're going to. And I know we're considering doing Lost Luau as a more permanent feature. So you'll probably be hearing more about that. I think the key is, and the most interesting thing for me is that there's so many great ideas that have come out of this pandemic. And I really want to be able to support any bartender that has one. I think that a lot of people have been locked down and have put more muscle behind that idea they had once. And so I'm really excited to see what people bring into the market and see what people can come back to brands like yourself with to either initiate those great ideas. If you've got a dream idea for a bar, now's your chance, because the rent's never been cheaper, and venues and landholders want you in their venue. So, like, go for it.
It's the next gen.
Yeah, that is as positive a message we possibly could have ended this on. I'm amazed that we got away with as few technical difficulties as we did. I'm telling you, I would have had a much harder time getting 2 UK bartenders to come to a bar and do an interview with me at 10 a.m. their time. So thank you so much for getting up early. I know it was a lot harder for Tom than it was for Chau. I'm gonna bring this to an end with my effusive thanks. Like, you guys are amazing. I wish I could spend every day with you. Tom and Chau, you're absolutely my heroes. Thank you so much. So from miserable London, good night and good morning. Bye, guys.
We'll get that tan going soon.
You see, it's not that great. Bye, guys.